Hello everyone, today is 4th of June, now it's 20 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is first part of today's update in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second part will be published on my Patreon page, and if you are interested in more news, commentary, and also in some non-political content that just about life in Russia that I publish on my Patreon on a regular basis, please consider to subscribe. That will be a great support of my work and this channel. Link under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment to my Patreon. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And well, we have breaking news for this morning, which is that US seized Scott Ritter's passport. Of course, all of you, I guess, are familiar with Scott Ritter, one of the rare public figures in US that clearly seen worldwide as a voice of reason. And unfortunately, yesterday, while Scott Ritter was trying to fly to St. Petersburg to participate in economical forum, St. Petersburg's economical forum, he was removed from the plane basically, and his passport was confiscated, which is crazy, by the way. And according to some reports that I see, similar experience had Judge Napolitano, also of course voice of reason from US. And let's go through this news. By the way, US State Department has seized their passport of the former Marine and a UN weapons inspector, Scott Ritter. He himself told this to RT on Monday. Ritter was in his way to Russia for the St. Petersburg International Economical Forum when he was pulled off the plane and had his documents confiscated. I was, and then quote, I was boarding the flight. 3 officers pulled me aside. They took my passport. When asked why, they said orders of the State Department. They had no further information for me, Ritter told the RT. They pulled my bags off the plane, then escorted me out of airport. They kept my passport. So I mean, you tell me what the hell is going on in US, by the way, because this is not normal. Obviously, this is not normal. And well, Biden's administration is really destroying whatever is left from the reputation of the US as a land of free and beacon of democracy and country where freedom of speech is protected, or rights for a free movement and so on. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy what is going on. They are not allowing citizens to travel to other country to participate in a conference. And by the way, Scott Ritter and Judge Napolitano, as far as I know, supposed to participate in the discussions on one of the panels in economical forum in St. Petersburg. It was already scheduled. So this is really upsetting, disappointing, because it clearly demonstrates that it's not just Biden's administration, by the way, but it's state institutions of US that are heavily corrupt, and they are now politicized in, so much so that they are conducting unlawful operations against US citizens, even in US itself. I mean, crazy. I guess today Scott Ritter and Judge Napolitano will share their view on all this matter on their channels. Or maybe Scott Ritter will be guest on Judge Napolitano's channel on YouTube. We will find out. But it's a clearly disappointing development. That's for sure. And the RIA Novosti, by the way, Russian news agency, tried to contact State Department and ask for commentary on this matter, and State Department refused to comment on this situation. Unbelievable, man. RT is reporting that there was an article, by the way, in Washington Post that Zelensky is failing to win over Asian countries. So Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has largely failed in his attempt to drum up support among Asian countries for his peace formula ahead of the conference in Switzerland later this month. The Washington Post reported on Monday on this matter. Moscow has dismissed Kiev's roadmap for ending the conflict as unrealistic because it does not correspond to realities on the ground. And rarely, of course, but time to time, even Washington Post may come up at least partially with some adequate assumptions. And in this particular case, Zelensky clearly failed. His trip to Shangri-La Dialogue Conference in Singapore was really failure. And at some point, probably due to frustration, or maybe Zelensky used some extreme levels of some powders. I don't know what he is on. But he started heavily criticizing, and not even criticizing, but insulting China, by the way. And I mean, after that, who would take him seriously, by the way? In the South, in the global South, I mean, come on, man. And he made even more stupid, or no less stupid move after insulting China by calling it a weapon in Russian hands and client state for Putin. I mean, Zelensky went full crazy mode there. And after that, he went to Philippines. Probably he was thinking that because relationships between China and Philippines are not in the best shape right now, Philippines government will be in full support of him and his so-called peace formula. But he get disappointed there also because Filipinos leadership, as far as I know, stated that if one should expect effective outcome from any conference, then both sides of the conflict should be represented, and this is clearly not the case when it comes to this Switzerland conference. So he was unable to secure even support of the Philippines. So total failure, clearly. And Washington Post just probably had to acknowledge this objective reality. And when it comes to this Switzerland so-called peace summit, BRICS member states, by the way, will not be represented on the top level. Many countries from BRICS are not even sending any delegation at all. But India, for example, will send their second or third tier delegation, and India has its own proposals for peace, and the Indian delegation will introduce that initiative from India. But not Prime Minister of India, not Foreign Minister will not going to join that circus in Switzerland. Understandably so, by the way. They are busy people. They have so much to do, and they don't have time for a clown show of Zelensky. And by the way, Pakistan also most likely will not be represented on this Swiss conference, at least on a high level. And the China official representative of Chinese Foreign Ministry reacted on this criticism of the Zelensky. And we have information here that Chinese government has said it will not be taking part in upcoming Swiss hosted conference on the Ukrainian conflict, as the conditions necessary for such an event have not been met. Beijing has repeatedly stressed that any summit on settling the fighting between Russia and Ukraine must include three important elements. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said during their media briefing on Monday. Those terms are recognition of their event by both Moscow and Kiev, equal participation of all sides, and fair discussion of all peace proposals. And of course, none of these conditions are met by this conference in Switzerland. None of it. And these points that China outlined are basics. I mean, this is not something extraordinary. It's just the basics. And Switzerland, Swiss government failed to meet any of it. And of course, therefore, a vast majority of countries in this world, the leadership on the top level will skip that conference. Because, as I said, man, people are busy. They don't have time for Zelensky's clown show. Even US, by the way, even US will send none other than Kamala Harris. Biden will not participate, of course. And from US will be represented by Kamala Harris and Jake Sullivan. Kamala Harris being vice president and Sullivan aide of Biden in some security matters. I mean, what can I say about this, man? It's even US is not in support of Zelensky. That's how I see this situation. I can understand that Biden physically may not be able to participate in that conference. It's a long flight from US to Switzerland and so on. But I mean, they could send Blinken at least. I mean, head of State Department. Maybe he will join them. Who knows? But when it comes to Kamala Harris, will she even understand what is going on in that conference? I'm quite sure if you will give her world's map, and ask her to find Switzerland, you know, I doubt that she will be able to find it. And okay, Switzerland is a tiny European country. If you will ask her to find Ukraine, I doubt that she will be able to find Ukraine on a map, even in 24 hours. So that's the level of representation of the US on that summit, by the way. Anyways, let's continue. Really too much noise about this so-called summit. It was clear from the very beginning that it was a clown show of Zelensky and his, at least some of his Western backers. And everyone understands that. Anyways, next news is from RBK news agency that Zelensky's office, by the way, has no plans to have any contact with the Constitutional Court of Ukraine on the topic of legitimacy of Zelensky. Let me give you a little detail. The office of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky will not appeal to the country's Constitutional Court regarding the legitimacy of the head of the state, whose term in office expired on May 20, said Irina Mudraya, deputy head of the office for legal issues. Stranova reported. Stranova is Ukrainian propaganda outlet. And yes, I mean, why should they ask anything for to Constitutional Court of Ukraine when they can avoid that inconvenience and stay in power as long as Washington basically not against it. That's what is happening in the Ukraine, by the way. Even author of the constitution, Ukrainian constitution, author who knows perfectly well what this constitution is about, said that after 20 of May, Zelensky is no longer legit president. That's it. Prolongation of the martial law is not prolonging presidential term. In Constitution, nothing is said about prolongation of the presidential term. It can prolong Parliament's term, by the way. And if there will be no parliamentary election, Parliament still be legit institution, but not the president. Presidential institution is in different situation, different framework legally. And this martial law, no matter how many times Zelensky will prolong it, it's not prolonging automatically his presidential term. That's it. And if anyone knows anything about Ukraine's constitution, probably someone who wrote it. So author of that constitution said Zelensky is finished as a president. That's it. But well, as I said, man, as long as Washington wants to keep Zelensky in office, this is gonna be a position of Zelensky and his criminal associates, that Zelensky is legit. We don't need to go to constitutional court. Why? We know better than anybody. Okay, man. Okay, no one. I guess more and more countries worldwide will find it difficult to to deal with their illegit president, because everyone understands that whatever Zelensky will sign will have no legal meaning. No matter what will be said by whom, when it comes to legislation, when it comes to rule of law, Zelensky from 20th of May is not the president of Ukraine. He is still in charge in Kiev. He is head of Kiev's terrorist regime, Nazi and terrorist regime in Kiev. That's yes, that's factual. But legally speaking, he no longer has right to be called president. That's it. Anyways, man. Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that, well, according to high-ranking British military, Ukraine won't trigger World War III, and let's hope this is the case. Although, by the way, as Western ruling class continues to escalate further and further and further with Moscow, I guess chances that we might see direct confrontation between Russia and NATO increases. But anyways, let's go through this news. So mounting tensions between Russia and the West over Ukraine do not mean that the World War III is imminent, according to Admiral Tony Radakin, the Chief of Defense Staff of the United Kingdom. Sky News recorded an interview with Radakin on the 80th anniversary of the 1944 Allied landing in Normandy. It was pre-recorded and aired on Monday, so the Admiral had not been aware when interview was taken of the US and other NATO member countries approving the use by Kiev of their donated weapons to strike deep inside Russia. And then, quote, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, does not want a war with NATO. Putin does not want nuclear war, and we have enormous overmatch because of the strength of the NATO, Radakin told Sky News. He downplayed the talk of the potential for the imminent global conflict. However, we've got to be very careful that we distinguish between the really severe and deep threats in the late 1930s and how we entered into the World War, and not use loose language that we are somehow on the cusp of the World War, Radakin advised, adding that the world's got a bit more dangerous, but we should be reassured but by all that we've got in place. I mean, whatever he means, by the way. He thinks Russia is bluffing, I guess, when Russian high-ranking officials are stating that there will be implications for this constant escalation from the West, and let's see, time will tell. Does Moscow bluffs or not? I'm afraid we are already in the situation when that I was predicting for a while, when Russian leadership will see no way out, no other way out but to use extreme force and retaliate against hostile regimes. And we have RT's report here that, well, with the headline that US close to fatal miscalculation. according to high-ranking Russian diplomat. Let's go through this news. The US is close to making a fatal miscalculation in its attempts to deal with the Russia and Ukraine conflict. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov has warned. The senior diplomat commented on Monday on the report's US decision to let Kiev use American weapons outside what Washington considers Ukraine territory. The move is supposedly limited to a small piece of Russia's Belgorod region relevant to hostilities across the border in Ukraine's Kharkov region. I'd like to warn American actors against a miscalculation that can lead to fatal consequences. For some unclear reason, they underestimate how serious response they could face, Ryabkov told journalists. So yes, yet another warning from Moscow. And I appreciate that Russian leadership is trying its best to avoid next level of escalation. This is good, by the way. This is good because none of us in this world want to end up in a real world war. And none of us want to see what nuclear exchange will bring to human civilization. But same time, I'm afraid Ryabkov is absolutely correct. And as I said, man, Moscow most likely already are in a situation when Russian leadership probably sees no any other option to bring Western ruling class to their senses but to retaliate with some force. Only question is what that force will be for now. That's the only question I have. Personally, let's hope it's not nuclear force, because Russia has other means also to send a clear and extremely strong message, conventional means. But I guess at this point retaliation from Moscow is inevitable, because what US and NATO member states are doing by striking Russian territory, internationally in internationally recognized borders, by the way, it's an act of war. There's no way around it. It's act of war because all of us know that this long-range weapon system has been operated by NATO military personnel. So that's why I think Ryabkov is absolutely correct, and most likely some sort of retaliation from Moscow now is inevitable, and then we will see how will collective West reacts on it, and this how long this tit for tat will continue, and what kind of force will be used during that. So unfortunately, it seems to me that next level of escalation is inevitable at this point. Only question is scale, and what type of force will be used, conventional or non-conventional. And that's all because of the crazy policies of the collective West, leadership of the collective West, by the way. Because, as I said, when I appreciate all the attempts from Russian leadership to avoid this escalation, next level of escalation with the collective West, but I mean, Western weapons already being used to target Belgorod region, for example. HIMARS missiles being used, and according to some reports, by the way, as one of the air defense systems, Russian air defense systems, were targeted and destroyed. This is the rumors, by the way. I did not see any confirmation of this information on in Russian media, but on internet rumors are circulating. Video is circulating, some photos, by the way, that S-300 or S-400 air defense system was targeted and at least partially destroyed by HIMARS, and this is a big deal. There is also videos, by the way, where you can see fragments of HIMARS missiles that were found in Belgorod region. So this is act of war, and Moscow already has no option but to but to take action on this. And well, and therefore, I don't know, Ryabko is absolutely correct. US is really close. US leadership, NATO leadership in general, and the Western ruling class, they are very close to fatal miscalculation. Anyways, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Macron, by the way, we have confirmation, basically, additional confirmation, this time from radio station RFI, that Macron, president of France, on 6th of June, during one of the events of celebration of an 80th anniversary of Normandy landing, will probably make announcement about deployment of the French troops into Ukraine. And well, those French troops already are in Ukraine, by the way. According to some reports, already 2 groups of French militaries being deployed into Ukraine. And I would not be surprised at all if on 6th of June, today, tomorrow, or day after, these groups will be exterminated in Ukraine. Anything may happen. And that also will be a clear message from Moscow. So it is highly likely, in my personal opinion, that well, Russian military intelligence will try to find out where those French troops are located, and probably some strikes will take place, or maybe those strikes already had happened. So that will be a clear message for collective West and Macron. Leadership of the collective West, by the way. Anyways, let's continue. And surprising news here from RIA Novosti, that president of Bulgaria, by the way, client state of US, no questions, and still president of Bulgaria blamed NATO of crossing red lines on Ukraine. Well, interesting. Let's translate, by the way. I want to be precise because I was surprised when I see this news, because Bulgaria is a client state of US, and president of Bulgaria, he wants to be removed from office, or what's going on here? Because US can do it easily. I mean, it's not a big issue for US Secret Services. But anyways, let's continue. The situation in Ukraine is becoming uncomfortable due to the violation of the red lines by Western countries, said Bulgarian President Rumen Radev, quoted by Bulgarian national television. And then, quote, by the way, until now, there have been 2 red lines that restrain the uncontrolled escalation. The first is limiting the geographical scope of the conflict only to the territory of Ukraine. The second is preventing the direct clash between NATO troops and with the permission to use Western weapons in the depth of Russia, and send advisors and instructors to their very front line. This red line have already been violated. The head of the state said, well, we all know this, of course, and President of Bulgaria clearly has a point, but where is that news, by the way? Clearly has a point, but once again, maybe it's too late to wake up already. Maybe it's just too late. These people should think about the escalating way before, long before, by the way. Now it's just too late. Unfortunately, next level of escalation is inevitable, and all the hostile nations, by the way, to Russia, all the hostile countries will remain, I mean, Russia will struggle. Russia will struggle for decades, by the way, not for one generation or two, but maybe even forever, to ever trust countries that are in anti-Russian coalition right now, including Bulgaria, by the way. Leadership of Bulgaria was extremely anti-Russian. And I remind you, Bulgaria only exists because of Russia. Literally, by the way, Bulgaria only exists because of Russia and sacrifice of Russian warriors that liberated Bulgaria from Ottoman Empire. And still Bulgaria and many other countries, by the way, that have every reason to be friendly to Russia, they betrayed Russia. They turned their back on Russia. And I guess relationships will never be the same, and I don't think we will ever see Bulgarian people or other Eastern European people as our brothers. Just saying, man, because that's what our attitude was, by the way, on post-Soviet area. But it's not gonna be this way no more. But in this particular, unfortunately, I'm really sorry for what has been done by leadership of these Eastern and Central European states. But it is what it is, man. They chose to position themselves as enemies of Russia, and we all have to deal with the consequences now. But in this particular case, I mean, President of Bulgaria has points in his statement. Yes, red lines being crossed by collective West, and next level of escalation is inevitable, in my personal opinion. It's only a matter of when and with what force Russia will respond and retaliate on this act of war from US, UK, France, Germany, and some other NATO member states. Let's continue. And Glad newspaper is reporting that, how long is this update, by the way? 32 minutes. At least I will try to go through headlines, and the rest of it, by the way, rest of the news in the second part on my Patreon. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that, foreign policy, quite influential media outlet in the US, come up with an article that Ukrainian armed forces need immediate counteroffensive, successful one, so that Kiev regime will be in little better position to start negotiating with the Moscow. And by the way, I don't know why this media outlet is influential in US, but author of this article clearly not the top analyst. That's for sure, because otherwise they will know. This author of this article and also editors of the foreign policy, that Kiev regime in no position to conduct any more or less even sectoral scale counteroffensive, by the way, and hope for success. It's just it's not even option, by the way. It's not happening. It's pure fantasy. And foreign policy is publishing entire article on fantasies now. And this media outlet is regarded as influential in US. Okay, I'm not surprised at all that US foreign policy has been messed, by the way, total mess, and US no longer, or Washington no longer knows how to operate in terms of diplomacy. All they know is to threat. That's all Washington does nowadays. I mean, they are threatening everybody. If they don't like something, if there is some issues to be resolved, they are just threatening. They are unable to negotiate. They don't know it. Anyways, let's continue. TASS news agencies report that Italy most likely will provide Kiev regime with another air defense system, SAMP-T. Okay. Just a few days ago, some high-ranking officials in Italy were making some adequate statements, and now this information, quite disappointing. But I mean, it is what it is, man. Unfortunately, collective West, this anti-Russian coalition, man, they really destroy relationships between the countries, didn't they? And how anybody ever, even in 20, 30, 50 years, will trust governments of any of these countries, man. I don't know. A few days ago, defense minister of Italy making quite understandable statements. Also, vice prime minister or deputy prime minister was making quite adequate statements. And now this report, this is Reuters information, by the way, that most likely Italy will send additional weapon systems, including long-range air defense system. Okay. Unfortunate, but what you gonna do, man? I just feel sorry that relationships between Russia and the European states or states from collective West will probably never be rebuilt ever. It's a sad, man. I don't. If you ask me, some years ago, I will say that I prefer Europe in this particular case to be a strategic partner of Russia, and relationships to be as good as possible. And I will say that it will bring great opportunities for Europe, Russia from global south, because Russia will play a role of a bridge between these two important regions. But we end up in nowadays where continental Europe and also UK being turned into enemies of Russia by Western ruling class, which is really unfortunate. TASS news agencies report that upper parliament of Switzerland made decision not to allocate 5.6 billion US dollars to Ukraine. Okay. We all know in a few days' time there will be this so-called peace conference in Switzerland, and I guess Swiss lawmakers did not want it to be seen by everybody once again as a part of anti-Russian coalition, and that probably plays some role that they did not support allocation of 5.6 billion US dollars for Kiev regime. But after that conference, I guess lawmakers will go back to this topic and they will allocate maybe even more money for neo-Nazis and the terrorists in the Kiev regime. Probably that's what is going to happen, man. Also, RT's report, 38 minutes. Okay, headlines. RT's report that Maldives announced on Sunday that Israeli passport holders would be banned from visiting due to war in Gaza. Maldives are a very popular resort, of course, worldwide for everybody. It must be beautiful, by the way, there. And I can understand that Maldives government are not happy with the Israeli government's actions in regards to Palestine, but I cannot understand this decision. And I spoke about it on my Patreon yesterday. I don't understand why Maldives are banning Israeli passport holders. This is segregation, in my opinion, and unfortunately, I wanted to highlight this news to noted that unfortunately, because of the actions of Netanyahu and his government, ordinary Israelis, and I will say even Jewish people in general, experiencing more and more instances of anti-Semitism, which is tragedy, of course, also. And in this particular case, in the small island nation, just banned Israeli passport holders to even enter the country. I don't know. This is wrong, in my personal opinion. This is wrong, and one should keep in mind that actions of the government is actions of the government, and we should never, we should always distinguish government from the people. Because I mean, what, as I said on my Patreon yesterday, what our Jews, by the way, had to do with the actions of the Netanyahu. And thanks God, anti-Semitism is not an issue in Russia, by the way. There might be some anti-Semites, they are everywhere, but it's not issue here in Russia. I mean, we have almost 200 different ethnic groups here. People, all the major religions, by the way, and we live in peace. So it's not issue here, but it's just legit question, isn't it? What our Jews have to do with actions of the Netanyahu? Nothing, isn't it? Nothing. And many our fellow citizens have Israeli passports. So why should they be banned to travel freely anywhere, and why should they be intimidated? It's not good, by the way. It's not good, and this is consequences, one may say, of the actions of the Netanyahu's government, and how devastating this regime, Netanyahu's regime, being for Israel, for Israelis, and for Jewish people in general, that have nothing to do with this crazy Netanyahu man and his actions. RT is reporting that Turkish exports to Israel plunged 99% according to data. Turkey's exports to Israel came to a standstill in May after the country's government suspended all trade with the Jewish state in response to IDF operation in Gaza, Bloomberg reported on Monday. Well, that's a big deal also, of course. Israeli, and I said, man, Netanyahu's government is a total disaster for Israel, man. In every possible way. In every possible way, man. And I cannot understand how this person still in power, man, there. It makes no sense, man. TASS news agencies report that International Atomic Energy does not have evidence that Iran develops nuclear weapons, according to head of IAEA, Rafael Grossi. Well, Iran was quite clear, isn't it? That they don't want to have nuclear weapons. And they were also clear that if necessary, they will have opportunity to make nukes. But right now, it's not their goal to have nuclear weapons, because they know perfectly well, once Iran will get nukes, Saudi Arabia will try to do the same. Some other countries in the region. It's not necessary for Iran. Iran don't really need nukes. It has enough conventional weapons to be force in a region and major regional powerhouse. So I'm not at all surprised that IAEA confirmed information that we all knew anyways, that Iran is not building non-nuclear weapons. It has capabilities to enrich uranium, possibly up to military grade level, but still, why would they want to have nukes, man? It's an additional headache that I don't think Iranian government needs, really. RIA Novosti's report that, well, according to Business Insider, by the way, Pentagon is unknown source in the Pentagon claimed that Dwight Eisenhower, U.S. aircraft carrier Dwight Eisenhower, have not been damaged by Houthi missile strike. And this unknown source said that all these talks about possible about strikes on successful strikes on Dwight Eisenhower is a waste of time, and none of it has happened. But yet again, man, show us the video. It's easy. Captain of the Dwight Eisenhower shared some old video, old footage of operations on the deck of the carrier. Show us new footage, and that's it. I mean, question is will be answered, and there will be no rumors no more. What is the big deal? But because of, I mean, I'm still finding it extremely difficult how Houthi rebels managed to strike carrier, by the way. I find it really difficult to understand, because carriers never move on their own. It's always a strike group next to them. Several ships, by the way. All of them are packed with their air defense systems. Their main task is to protect the aircraft carrier. And how air defenses of those ships failed, so much so that Houthi missiles or drones from Houthi rebels reach carrier and cause some damage, I don't know, man. But I mean, things happened. Sometimes, as I said yesterday, it was, isn't it? Sometimes some systems may malfunction, including air defense systems, and exactly at that point, missile or drone may hit your vessel, and maybe that's exactly what happened with the Dwight Eisenhower. I don't know. RT is reporting that Georgia's foreign agents law is come to force, by the way, yesterday. Speaker of the Georgian parliament has signed into law a controversial bill on foreign agents transparency. It's official now. And well, good for Georgia, by the way. Good for Georgia. Some NGOs in Georgia already stated, by the way, that they will not apply, they will not act according to this law. They will ignore it. But well, in that case, I guess law enforcement institutions will have a means to, deal with the issue, because law is law. You may like it, you may not, but it was legitimately adopted, by the way, by legitimate Georgian parliament that was elected by people. So, I mean, it's a law, man. So you have to apply it. And by the way, U.S. response is here. Of course, Washington is not happy. Collective West is not happy because Georgia adopted this law, because now public will have opportunity to know how much money Western ruling class is spending in Georgia to influence internal politics, internal life of the Georgia through their assets in NGOs, so-called media, also politicians and so on. And well, because West is not happy, leadership of the West, US is the first which will impose sanctions. I report earlier that Washington was considering to impose some visa restrictions on the politicians in Georgia and public figures that had anything to do with this law on foreign agents, and that's exactly what is going to happen. This was stated by head of State Department's press service, Matthew Miller, and not yet official dates when US will impose sanctions on Georgian citizens, but I guess it will not take long. And the TASS news agencies report also that CSTO, by the way, Collective Security Treaty Organization, want Armenia to clear up its participation in organization. This was stated by Secretary General of the organization. CSTO, by the way, is a military alliance that was created by several former Soviet republics, including Russia, Belarus, Armenia is also there, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And by the way, Armenia's government and the leadership of Pashinyan, of course, were sabotaging CSTO, sabotaging relationships between Yerevan and Moscow, between Yerevan and other capitals of the CSTO. And therefore, time came when Secretary General of organization is saying openly, you know what, clarify your stance. Are you with us or are you out of this organization? Which is quite understandable. So the Collective Security Treaty Organization would like Yerevan, capital of Armenia, to clarify its relations with the organization. CSTO Secretary General Imangali Tasmagambetov stated, "We hope that the Republic's political leadership will make concrete statements on the prospects of its relations with the CSTO. It would be good for all members of our association, first of all in terms of planning future joint activities," he said at the session of the CSTO Parliamentary Assembly's Council. So let's see what Yerevan's response will be. I guess it's only a matter of time and Armenia will leave CSTO. It seems inevitable at this point because under Pashinyan's leadership, Armenia is clearly not a strategic partner to nobody from CSTO. And eventually, under Pashinyan, relationships between Armenia and other Soviet republics, majority of the former Soviet republics, probably will be totally destroyed. TASS news agencies report here that Microsoft, in last 2 weeks, by the way, turned off services to half of their organizations in Russia. Which is once again reminder that Russian businesses, Russian economy should not be dependent in any ways on anything that is controlled by Western ruling class, including Microsoft, by the way, monopoly that is obviously controlled by Western ruling class. And well, this is a good signal for Russian government to invest and to not just invest but to create such a ground where programmers from worldwide will find it extremely attractive to work in Russia, including on software, for different businesses. And it will be beneficial for Russia, for Russian companies, and for companies worldwide, because Microsoft is monopoly, by the way, and they can do whatever they want. They can turn off their services to your business just because they don't like you. And what you gonna do then if you have no alternatives? One more indicator of weaponization of the Western systems, by the way. Western banking system being one weaponized financial system, and also, by the way, this IT sector of the West also been weaponized by Western ruling class. 53 minutes. Okay, just a few more news, by the way, because I believe this is important news, and I have also quite a number of important news in the second part for Patreon. And this is Lenteru's report, by the way, that according to articles in Western media, including in Financial Times, China and Chinese and Russian businesses that are in talks about Power Siberia 2 pipeline, gas pipeline, are in a corner now, end up in a corner, because they cannot agree on certain issues, certain topics, including price of the gas that China will pay after this pipeline will be built. And it is unfortunate, but that's a business, by the way. That's a business. Of course, Chinese side wants to buy gas cheaper than they want to buy gas as we buy, by the way, inside the Russian market. So prices for Russian citizens for internal market is significantly lower than export prices, which is understandable. And China wants to buy Russian gas on a level of internal Russian prices, which is a non-starter for Gazprom, non-starter for Russian side, because why? Why? China is not a part of Russia, for God's sake, isn't it? So negotiations are, still going on, but they are in difficult stage. And recently, during the Putin's visit in China, this topic of Power Siberia 2 was also discussed. And I guess eventually both sides will be forced to compromise on some level. And eventually this Power Siberia will receive green light. But it's business as usual, by the way. It's business negotiations. It's not always goes smoothly. Both sides want maximum benefits, and because of it, sometimes it takes quite a lot of time and energy to achieve a final result. But eventually, I believe Power Siberia will be built, and it will benefit both sides, by the way. I have no doubts about it. And RIA Novosti's report here that, Kremlin commented on this topic of some issues in the negotiations between Chinese and Russian sides when it comes to Power Siberia. And I believe Dmitry Peskov, yes, press spokesman of the Russian president, stated that eventually these negotiations between the sides will be successful, and they will reach some agreements. Moscow has no doubts about it. And Chinese side should I can understand they want as cheaper prices as possible, but they should always keep in mind that after all, Russian side may get a little tired of these games. And after all, Global South is huge and demand is huge, and only so much they can push before Moscow will say, you know what, if you don't want it, then okay, it's fine. We will sell this gas to India. So if you don't want to end up in that situation, then, just be careful, because, you need energy. China needs energy, and Russia can provide energy. So it's good for both sides to eventually achieve some compromise and do business. Anyways, by the way, RT is reporting that while in gas sector there is some issues that sides can, not in the gas sector, by the way, in terms of this new project, Power Siberia 2. Sides are still negotiating and stuff. Quite opposite situation in financial terms between Russia and China, and both sides are close to replacing SWIFT, for example. And Moscow and Beijing are developing a system of settlements which could allow cross-border transaction without the use of the Western financial messaging system SWIFT. Russia's Presidential Business Rights Commissioner Boris Titov has revealed. Addressing the results of the Russia and China cooperation in a new era international conference held in Moscow last week, Titov told us that the two countries have accelerated efforts to move away from SWIFT to trade using their respective national currencies. Many regional banks are already replacing SWIFT with the Chinese analog CIPC, their officials said on Monday, adding that the Chinese systems used for payments in yuan will continue to expand. Titov is also the Russian chairman of the China-Russia Friendship Committee for Peace and Development. Moscow has been promoting its own domestic payment system as a reliable alternative to the SWIFT, since many of their country's banks were disconnected from the Western financial networks. So yes, I mean, Chinese CIPC is actively used between the sides and probably will dominate in the transactions. And who knows, maybe eventually BRICS alternative to the SWIFT will be based on Chinese system. That's possibility, because we should keep in mind China is a major economy, by the way, in this world, and of course heavyweight in economical and financial terms, and all the other countries, including in the BRICS, by the way, have to deal with it. I mean, it's just objective reality. So probably, of course, this Chinese system will dominate transactions outside of the collective West eventually, and okay, I mean, just to stay on safe side, Russia is building its own system, and more than 20 countries are connected with it. India is building in its own, so that, which is good, by the way, so that BRICS or world outside of West will never end up in a position that world is right now, when only dominant system is a Western financial and the banking system, which is weaponized. So to avoid that kind of risks in the future, simultaneously with Chinese system, some alternatives should be also developed, and that's what is going on exactly. So good, by the way, good for Russia, good for China, good for BRICS, and let's hope we will see before end of this year some alternative being proposed to this world from the BRICS when it comes to financial and banking system, including system of transactions. I mean, because SWIFT is not reliable, obviously, and should be replaced by rest of the world. I mean, the Western world, collective West, can continue to use it as long as they like. It's their business. And this is it for now, by the way. This is it for now. Quite long update, but there are plenty of news. And by the way, I have also quite number of news for second part. Sometimes days are slow in news-wise, sometimes it's opposite. So quite a long update, yes, but hopefully you will find it interesting and informative, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. As I said many times, by the way, this is the only way we can influence somehow algorithm to reach wider audience, to reach people that may interested in news in general, and in news from Russia in particular. And for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life or in on platforms that you are actively using on the internet. And finally, if you like this channel, if you find it interesting, useful, informative, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, which is alternative to the Buy Me Coffee, by the way. I was cancelled on Buy Me Coffee, so I'm using Boosty now. Or by subscribing to my Patreon page, by the way, where I'm publishing some extra content on regular basis. Not just news updates, but also some extra content about life in general here in Russia. So yes, this is it for now. Links are, by the way, under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. Have a great day, and take care. See you on Patreon shortly. I will start recording second update now.